Hello, folks. Welcome to another edition of Social Media News Live. Paul, fresh off the ship. He's back. He's ready to talk more about email. This is going to be an amazing show. Let me make sure I have all my... Oh, I'm hearing echo. You're hearing it.
That was me. Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry.
I was like, what? I'm hearing myself. What did I do? I broke something. Anyway, we're excited to have Paul back in the show. As we go along today, make sure you ask your questions. We're talking all about email marketing. And this is going to be a fun show because we didn't, of course, have enough time to pick Paul's brain completely clean. We're going to try to do that today, so we're really excited. And by the way, we have the amazing Connor Brown here as well, the unsinkable Connor Brown. And Connor, I did something, I like to play with AI, and so I've decided for you, I have a theme song that I'm going to play. So I just have a little clip we're going to play really quick, and I'll just let you listen to it.
Unsinkable Connor Brown, they cry. He'll find the route no wave can deny. Through storms and squalls, he holds his ground. All hail the name of Connor Brown.
So there you go. That is the unsinkable Connor Brown theme, ladies and gentlemen. Did that with Suno. Pretty fun little stuff. I didn't have a chance for you, Paul. I may, start doing this for things, but it was really cool. It does sea shanties now, and so I have if you would like, by the way, the entire Connor Brown song, just shoot me an email. Join. I'm going to talk about it in my newsletter, so you can go here to jeffc.com/news, and you can hear the complete theme song for the unsinkable Connor Brown. So make sure you guys go over there and check that out. Where is there we go. So anyway, we're going to start the show. What do you think, Connor? What do you think of the...
that was unbelievable. Thank you for that. That's awesome. I'm going to have to pay someone to walk behind me with a boombox just playing that.
Oh, there's like a 2-minute version. Like there's
wait.
It's really good. So make
sure all hail Connor Brown. That's all I've been saying my whole life.
I know. I tried Reginald. It just didn't work. It didn't flow off the tongue. Yeah. So anyway. All right. We are going to start the show, folks. I'm going to hit go on the podcast machine, and we will get started. Hello, folks. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not.
And I'm Connor Brown, and this is the show that keeps you up to date on what's happening in the world of social media and more.
You ever felt stuck trying to figure out what to send your email list, or worse, or even how to start one? If you're wondering how how creators seem to build loyal communities through your inbox while yours just sits there collecting dust, or maybe you're finally ready to take control of your email strategy, then actually connect with your audience. If any of that sounds like you, well, you are in the right place. Today, we are once again sitting down with someone who knows email so very, very well. Paul Gowder has turned his passion for Native American culture into a thriving online community of over 100,000 email subscribers. He's here to share what's worked for him, what hasn't, and how you can use email to build deeper, lasting connections. So sit back, clear schedule, clear your mind, and get ready for this week's episode of Social Media News Live. Paul, thank you once again. I didn't know where you were going to call in from because you said you were getting off a cruise ship. I didn't know where you were. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I didn't. We ended up driving about 12 hours last night or yesterday. We just wanted to get back home, and I'm back in the office today. It's good.
Awesome.
Well, that is so sweet. So Paul was on 1 week, then went on a cruise, and now he's back. But after each show, probably
he needs a break.
I needed it. Yeah,
I get that. But if you don't know who Paul Gowder is, you should, because Paul is the owner and founder of powwows.com, which has been the leading online community celebrating Native American culture for the past 25 years. Having visited hundreds of powwows around North America, Paul has been able to capture those events and publish them to millions of viewers on his website and YouTube channel. Having experienced the trials and tribulations of running a successful online community for the past 25 years, Paul helps other entrepreneurs navigate the successes and pitfalls of building an online business through his public speaking and consulting services. He's also an email marketing expert, and we're so happy to have him back on the show. Thanks again, Paul.
No, thanks, guys. I look forward to the show, and I love your community. So I'm excited to let's talk about email again today.
Yeah. So speaking of our community, I want to do a shout out to the sponsors of the show, our friends over at Ecamm. You can find out more about them at ecamm.com/Jeff. They are actually right now, I think, with Pat Flynn at his card party. doing a bunch of cool live streaming stuff. So make sure you go check out the Ecamm channel to see that. Ecamm.com/Jeff. Use code Jeff15 to save 15% on your first purchase. All right. So I asked Paul to come back because there was so much that we didn't get to talk about because of just time, and we try to pull in questions. So don't interrupt me and Connor, because we don't know what we're talking about anyway. But we want to know what you want to know from Paul. So ask those as we're going along today. But first of all, Paul, I want to talk about, you've helped countless people set up their first list. I mean, that's one of the services that you offer, and you consult with a lot of big companies, small companies. It doesn't matter. You really are there for people who are wanting to really grow their email. So once that list is live and growing, like you've had your consulting call, you've helped them set it up, how does the strategy shift? Like, what should someone be focusing on 90 days in versus like day one?
One of the things I want to work with people to do is to make sure that people, it's important that we get them, in our lead magnet, and we get them to open that first email. But I want people to open the 20th email you send and the 30th. I want this to be a long lasting relationship. And so I like to work with people to really figure out what their voice is, and how to communicate in email their uniqueness, their personality, their take on it. And so I spend some time really helping people not write as a brand, or not just being like a flashy email template, but really using email like Jeff, you do so well on yours, is just talking like you're talking to somebody, at the coffee shop or at the bar, just hanging out with somebody, because that's what's going to separate you from all of these other brands. And the AI is just communicating with your friends. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. And so many people want to kind of be formal in email, and I want to tear some of that down and just write casual and be open about it.
I'll follow up real quick, Connor, before the next question is, there's a lot of people when they first start, they want to have those fancy newsletters like that we used to see back in the early 2000s with all the graphics and the stuff you see from Land's End and all whatever, things you get in the mail, all that spam. What are your thoughts versus, how much graphic should you have in an email versus text? Like you mentioned my newsletter, mine is like a text, like I'm just writing to somebody an email. So what are your thoughts on how fancy do we need to be?
So first you want to look at what is the purpose of your email. If you are an e-commerce brand and you are sending something that you want to be a transactional and you want people to purchase, maybe a more fancy template, maybe that's necessary to show off what you're selling. But if you are like most of us and you're a creator, and you're a blogger, or you have a podcast, then it's probably a text-based email that you want to do, maybe a header. And a few images is okay. Maybe use a button or something like that. But also remember, the more you put in your email, the heavier the email gets, the bigger in file size. And that, when we start talking about deliverability and not ending up in the promotions tab or the spam folder, that's one of the things they're going to look at is how big your email is. So sending text-based does signal to these companies like Yahoo and Google that it is more of an actual message to somebody, instead of just a promotion or a sale. Here's our Father's Day sale kind of email. So you want to look at those kind of things. And yeah, I think you'll see it. For me, this was years ago when I switched from using a template base to a more text base. The open rate, the reply rate, they all just go through the roof when you really just write as text.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And so, something that you just mentioned, Paul, is deliverability, is not getting in the spam folder, not getting in the promotions folder. And one thing that really helps with that is people opening your emails and engaging with your emails, which means pruning people off of your list. And we're here today to kind of talk about building your list. So it might seem counterproductive, but I think you would probably agree with this in saying, once you start to build your list, you also have to start putting in systems in place to remove people that aren't engaging with your emails so that you can keep your list clean. So how do you do that? How do you work through, pruning cold subscribers, improving deliverability rates? I know you have automations, filters, but what's the Paul Gowder system for that?
Jeff and I were just up in Boise at Craft and Commerce, and I went to a session that was done by some of the kit engineers, and they were talking about how important deliverability is. And if you want to keep your list healthy, if you want to keep showing up in the inbox, it is all about figuring out ways to make sure that you're delivering right. And one of the things they talked about is there's a myth out there that your deliverability is going to be hurt by using words like free or a
Yeah.
sale, stuff like that. And they said, no, more importantly is that Gmail and Yahoo, they're going to look at your overall list health. And if when you send out an email, say you send it out to 100 people, if only 25 of them are opening it, they're going to see it as, wow, 75 or 75% of your list is inactive. And that's going to start hurting your deliverability. You're going to see it in your open rates inside of your dashboards, right? And so that is so important to make sure your list is clean. Plus, if you're on something like Kit, you're paying for those subscribers. So for me, getting them off the list is the perfect way. I recently changed how I do it. I used to do it manually, like once a quarter, and I would send an email out and say, "Hey, I haven't heard from you in a while," to all the people who hadn't opened an email in 3 months, and give them a chance to re-engage with the list. And then if you hadn't, then I would just manually unsubscribe you. Recently, I did work with Kit, and they have a visual automation that's available on their website if you are a Kit user. It's really easy to do. You just click on it, installs it into your account, and it takes your list through a 90-day process. So after 90 days, they're kind of put into this automation that gives them a couple of chances. They're put into an email sequence. And so you can have a couple of touch points and say, hey, haven't opened an email. Do you still want to be on the list? If not, then they go to email number 2 and you give them one more chance. And you can add as many as you want and you customize these. But if they don't interact with one of those emails at all, then they are removed from your list. And that is super important. You need to get them off. Whether you're doing it manually or using one of these visual automations, definitely do this. And the cool thing with Kit's automation is once you kind of go through that, then it just flags your person with the tag, every single subscriber, and it puts them right back at the beginning of the visual automation. So every 90 days, your entire list is going through this, and you can just sit back, not worry about it, and just know that your list is going to be really clean and it's going to be just people who want your message.
I love
That's
that.
that's great. We talked about this a little bit. It's last time, so make sure you guys go back and listen to part 1 of this kind of deep dive with Paul about email marketing. But it's really scary to do that, especially if you're starting to grow your list and then you like knock off. Like I think Paul and I went through this process. I don't know, 2 years ago. He helped me kind of figure this out, and I had I think 5,000 people on my list, and then I culled it down to 2. That's scary. That's you feel like you're going backwards. But to Paul's point, you're paying for people who aren't doing anything, and why would I want to do that? So I think it's really important. And now having this automation cycle inside of Kit where you don't even have to think about it once you write those sequences, I think is really, really cool. Paul, there's a great question here by our friend James Hicks. He goes, are you more verbose with the text, or do you do the TLDR summaries? So too long didn't read summary. So what are your thoughts on that? If you have a big email, do you put a summary thing at the top for people, or what are your thoughts? I've seen those in a lot of the newsletters that I get. So what are your thoughts on that?
What I like to do in my emails is the top I save as my personal introduction, right? And that's going to be where I'm being very conversational. I'm writing, first person, talking directly to whoever's reading, and it is somewhat of a summary of what's going to be in the email. What's been going on the website. Here's some things that you may have missed, that kind of stuff in the top. So that's maybe sometimes it's 3 paragraphs, sometimes it's maybe 5 or 6, but it is a little shorter. And then I save the rest of the email for a little more detailed. So if we have a new article on the website or maybe a new live stream coming up, I'll go into a little more detail down the list. But yeah, I don't look at it like a summary as like he's talking about the too long read later. I do it as a very conversational, hey, I just want to, here's this week's email. And really it's just, again, talking like you're talking to someone, you're sitting there at a table with them. And that's what I save the top for.
Gotcha. Dustin over at he's our friend over at Magi. He says, He once went from 80,000 subscribers to 25,000 years ago. Best thing he ever did. Open rates were insane after that. So yeah, so if you want to improve your stats, doing this can make a huge difference on your open rates. So that's a great point. Thanks for that, Dustin. I wanted to ask Paul, one of the things that, a lot of people do, they have like multiple offers. Like a lot of us are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, we're running an online business and we have multiple offers we do. So how do you handle like multiple opt-ins or lead magnets without creating chaos with your email system? So what's the best way to do that? Because you and I have both know some people that we have been at conferences before who've got like this like crazy flow charted out, like where people are coming in and out and they're tagging left and right and all this stuff. So how do you keep your list sane? Because you've got a huge list and you have multiple offers.
Yeah, you can get crazy, and even if you do the best you can, at some point you do need to go kind of through it and audit yourself. And I highly recommend creating a test email account and subscribing to some of your offers and going through the flow yourself just to make sure you didn't miss anything, because over time these do change. What I like to do though is, and I do highly recommend, Jeff, I think having multiple offers is really important. Having different ways that people can get into your list is great. So I set up individual sequence for each of those offerings. And when they finish that sequence, then I send them into a general welcome that all of those sequences go through. And so once they get to that point, once they get to that central kind of general welcome sequence, then I know that all of my rest of my tagging and all of the else that happens, putting them in the segment that gets the broadcast, going into the pruning thing, all of that happens because I don't touch that from there on out. I only touch the beginning. So all of those different lead magnets have their own sequence. Some of them are one email, some of them may be three, and then they flow into that one big one that everybody goes through. And so it's kind of a master list. And once I have that set, I don't mess with it.
Gotcha. So each one of your landing pages, I want to get sure I get this right. Each one of your landing pages or offers has its own sequence, one or two. It doesn't up to how many ever you want, right? And then it dumps it into another like just general welcome sequence, and then they go through that. Then they go into your main kind of newsletter list, correct?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Gotcha. Yeah. And so, I've done that on my personal brand and on powwows.com. For me, that just makes it easier, because I've seen people that do kind of, here's the lead magnet, then they continue the sequence and they have all of their general welcomes and it's all one sequence. So then you end up with people in all these different flows, and they may end up getting some of those general welcome sequences twice if they go through different touch points. So this really helps. And, think of it like it's this hub and spoke model. So you can have all of these different entry points, but they're all going to kind of come back to that general welcome. And for me, again, and when I work with people, that's the first thing we're going to set up is that general welcome sequence. And we're going to make sure that is as solid as it can be. Doesn't mean you can't change it, over time, but we're going to make sure that's solid as it can be, because that's going to be our kind of master record that we're going to send everybody to once they come in.
And this sounds like a ton of work, and people start seeing funnels and sequences for each landing page. But the cool thing is once you set it up, you're done. Like, it's an automatic workflow. I mean, you can go back and tweak it and find out what's working, but you don't have to do this for every email. So I want to make sure people hear that, like, it takes a little bit of effort to get those sequences done and, set up. But once it's done, it just works. And so every time you get a new lead, it just goes into this system. So, because I know when I first started, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do all this. But once you do it, you don't really touch it again unless you need to. So
exactly. That's the great thing about setting up sequences. You do the work up front, and then it just continues to work for you. I was working with a client the other day who, same thing, they were overwhelmed by trying to write their welcome sequence. And I actually used our friend Lou Mangello's page and went to his About Me page on loumangello.com. I just threw that in ChatGPT and said, write me a 5 email welcome sequence. So that's one of those things if you're out there and you don't know what to put in your welcome sequence, you probably have an About You page. Just throw that in ChatGPT and tell it to write you a welcome sequence. You don't have to take it word for word, but it's going to look at it from the eyes of what they've seen other people write in their email welcome sequence. And it's going to give you a good way to kind of break down what you do, your services. And it threw out some great emails for Lou.
Yeah, it's really good.
I probably need to send that to him.
Yeah.
Well, what I love about Paul's system is the fact that people can come in with multiple opt-ins, right? But only get that welcome sequence once, right? So I think the beauty in creating multiple opt-ins and creating multiple lead magnets is, yes, it's a great way to grow your list, but it's also a great way to continue to engage with the list that you already have, right? They could be on your list for years. They love the value you're providing. You come out with a new lead magnet. Hey, they want access to that as well. Great. They get it. They go into that sequence. But since the welcome sequence is separate, they don't necessarily have to go through that again. They already know you. It's not redundant, which I think is really, really, really great. But one thing, Paul, is when people are starting out with this and they are beginning to email more consistently, what do you see creators and small business owners doing that you think is a big mistake once they start doing this emailing consistently? Something that might stall their growth or something like that. Do you see people, coming into common pitfalls when they do more consistent emailing?
One of the big hurdles I think a lot of creators have is just doing that, right? Is when we start talking about these sequences, they feel like they can only send one email a week.
Hmm.
And okay, I don't recommend sending 7 or 10 emails a week, but that's probably the biggest hurdle is that let's try, if you have a sequence, right? And a broadcast, then maybe you could send 2 a week. Maybe you do have enough value. And if I've worked with some creators, their open rates was like 70, 80%, and their click-through rates were 15 and 20%. And I'm like, your audience loves your email and your content. They're telling you they want more. So let's send a little more, right? Let's not go crazy. But that's probably the biggest one is that people don't think that they can send but one email a week or maybe two a month. And um, as long as you're really providing value and you still see those high engagement numbers, then I think you can send more than one. And that's probably the biggest hang up, because if you got some great content and you've got great offers, if you're going to be so reserved that you're only going to send 2 or 3 a month, it's going to take a long time for people to get into your offers, and you're just hurting yourself.
That's a great point. Great point. We got some great questions already from the amazing community watching. And Ralph asked, do you think it's best to keep emails just text and not include images? We kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, Ralph. I think both Paul and I like the text space because it helps with open rates. Paul actually on his, he does have like a banner image, and I know Ralph's email. So, I mean, Ralph's got kind of the same thing, but maybe taking out some other stuff and to see if those help with open rates. That's what I would do. I think the cleaner and less corporate, I think, helps with open rates. Would you agree, Paul?
Yes, I completely agree. I do that. I do have a banner for the powwows.com's email, powwows.com's email. But on my personal side, I don't send. Sometimes I have a banner, but mostly I'll just send text based. Again, it's powwows.com. I want a little bit of theming because I want people to know right off the bat what they're getting.
Where it's from,
The personal one, I feel like I'm writing a little more, even more casual than I do on Powwow, so that I try to remove those banners. But again, test it out. Send an email out 1 week with a banner and send 1 week without, and see what happens. I also see on the powwows.com banner, the banner is a link to the homepage, and I see a ton of people clicking that.
Yeah.
And so that's another source to get people back to your website too.
Yeah.
Which is interesting that people actually do click that.
Yeah, and I use for when I do my Friday show emails in this morning, talking about the show, I usually put the thumbnail that I make for the YouTube, and that gets a lot of clicks too. So I think that's a great point. There's a great question here by our pal Rich Graham. He says, Paul, do you have a separate kit account for powwows and the email marketing stuff, or do you have them in all one account and use tagging to keep people separate?
So I started off having it all in one account using tagging. I did separate it out a few months ago just because of the recommendation network. And so Kit has that great place where you can kind of recommend people and other people can recommend you. I couldn't, on powwows.com account, I couldn't have myself listed as a creator with what I do for the consulting and kind of coaching stuff, because you're only allowed kind of one profile in the creator network. So that was one of the big reasons I separated it out. And now powwows.com recommends my personal brand. So that works really well. I have a couple of other lists that I've created inside of powwows.com. Like we have a travel community, we have a Native American book club. So we have some of these that are existing inside of the powwows.com main account with tagging and kind of keeping the sequences separate, and even having separate broadcasts. At some point, I'm going to spin those off into their own accounts too. Again, just because of the recommendation network and trying to get more subscribers coming in to that. So you can do it both ways, but at some point, I think you reach enough critical mass that you do need its own account. And with Kit, it's free up to 10,000 subscribers with one automation. So yeah, you can keep it over there for a while.
Real quick, one more follow up from Dustin. He goes, "How do you do plain text in Kit these days? Seems like only HTML templates are possible." I think there isn't there a plain text template in there? But if you delete it, which I have done, you have to have support turn it back on. So
yeah, one of the templates is a text-based template. I think it does have some HTML coding in it. That's how they continue to do open rates and click-through rates. So it's not a complete text email. There is some HTML behind the scenes, but it's pretty much just text-based.
Yeah. All right, Connor. Sorry, interrupt you so much.
Shout out Rich Graham, by the way, who gave me a shout out. We were both in eCams training this week with Liz Wilcox.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about more email marketing. So it's spreading, right? And one thing we were talking about there, which I think goes great with this next question, is Paul, you mentioned using AI to help you build some welcome sequences or getting you to a place where you can start, right?
Right.
How do you balance that? How do you balance automation with human connection when you're writing these emails themselves? I mean, it's getting better every day, but we talk about it all the time. The reason that email is working so well is when it's a human connection, when you know that one person is writing to one person. How do you use it? How do you make it not feel too robotic and not impersonal?
Yeah, I use it for, like I said, I reserve the intro of most of my emails for me to communicate personally. And I, not every time, but I'm using AI more to help me write those. For me, what I'm doing is I'm putting as much in the prompt as I can. I am, putting in all of the personal references I want to use. So for example, I'll do, for our travel community, I'm going to write an email today or later this weekend about what we just did in our trip, and I'll put as much detail in there about what we actually did on the trip as possible. And so when it does write it, it's not making up a bunch of stuff. It's not, it's not having to kind of create its own story. I'm giving it as much of the story template as I can. And then I'm not taking the first thing it gives me. I'm continuing to, tell it, okay, this doesn't sound like me. I don't use those words. Change that around. And even then, I don't copy and paste it directly in. I'm still editing even when I do have the final version from ChatGPT. But I think, giving it as much as you can. And, there's tool, what's it called? Lex, Jeff?
Oh, Lex.page. Yeah, that's what I love.
Yeah, with Kit, we'll go in and read all of your past emails and kind of start building a writing style based on what you've done in the past. So I think that's important. As you continue to use it, it does learn your voice a little bit more and what you prefer. But yeah, I put as much detail as I can. If I have a good story that happened on a trip or something like that, I'll write it out in as much detail as I can, and then let it just put it in a better worded version for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So Dave Jackson, who is a friend of the show, and I love watching his live show on Saturdays, he says he writes everything and just says, make it better. And it does.
Yes.
And so that's kind of the things, like, because I'm a horrible speller, and that's, as long as it doesn't add a bunch of M dashes, we're okay. But
right.
But I think using it in that way is perfectly fine. We've got some more great questions from the community that I want to pull up before we go to this next section. Ralph has this question, and I'm not sure. Is there a way to remove the thing when somebody receives a email that says this is from a distribution list? Do you know what he's talking about there? Because I don't know if I've seen an email that does that. I know Substack now is a lot of times they'll combine all the things and they'll shoot them as an email, and it's not like everybody's single Substack, which is one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of the way they do that stuff. But
He might be meaning when you get it in your inbox, and if you click on the from field, it says via convert,
Oh,
or something like
okay.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think that's what he might mean.
Okay.
And no,
Okay.
there's not.
no,
No way to take it.
no.
Away. Yeah.
But make sure that you do the authenticated domain sending and all of the requirements inside of Kit or Flowdesk or any of the others to make sure that you have all of that set up correctly with your DNS. That will help. Even if it shows via ConvertKit, it'll help make sure that deliverability comes through correctly.
Yeah,
And
and I
those
know.
things are called DKMI and DMARC. So just
Mhm.
you can Google or ChatGPT that. We should start saying that.
Yeah.
ChatGPT that.
Yeah, and Kit makes it really easy to do. Like they walk you through the process, and Ralph, it's already set up on yours. I'm 100% sure, so that helps with deliverability. But yeah, you want to make sure you do all that. Even they say you don't need to do it unless you have over 1,000 subscribers, I think. But I would just do it. Just do it when you're setting things up. Get it set up, and let it run. So. This is another great question from Rich Graham. He's on fire today. He goes, do you use any of the dynamic content insertion block stuff that Kit can do? One of the cool things, and Liz Wilcox, who we mentioned earlier, has this new service, which is called, I can't remember, but it's not expensive. It's
List Gadgets.
List Gadgets. And it uses the HTML blocks where you can put polls, you can have all sorts of cool interactive things now with email. So make sure, I should have had my affiliate link, but I don't even have it ready. But it's a great service too, and you can. That's how you can use that. But anything else, Paul, that you would say about using dynamic content insert blocks?
Yes, if you can, if you're collecting their first name, putting that at some point in your email, Liz does in her template. She's really good about including first name like down even in the body of a message. I think that does make it a little more personal when people can see you're addressing them. Ralph, I know there are more dynamic stuff you can do, like you can put in if they have this tag, show them this block in an individual message. For me, I haven't done my messages that way. I do it more of if I need to send them something different based on a tag, I usually just have them in a different sequence. But you can do that in the individual email. It's just not, I haven't built that into my workflow yet.
One of the things in the we've probably all got emails that says, hello, insert first name here. And then it goes, so always run a test because you think you won't do that, but you will. And in Kit, there's a way to hit preview, and you can actually see and I always toggle it. I see it to make sure that it gets their name right, but also you can set it to see what happens if Kit doesn't have their first name, and you want to make sure it says something like mine says howdy my friend instead of howdy Paul if we don't have the name information. So just test that every time. It takes like 3 seconds so you don't look like one of those goobers who says, hello, insert name here. So, so we're going to go to this next section, Paul, and I wanted to talk about your Throwback Thursday sequence, which is brilliant. It's taking your past content and giving it this new life. We're big fans of repurposing here on the show. So can you explain how someone might start evergreen content, kind of that loop in their own kind of email or niche?
Yeah, I think it's such a great way to resurface your old content. If you're a podcaster, if you're a blogger, if you have more than 10 pieces of content, I think it's something you need to turn on. And so whether you call it your Throwback Thursdays or look back week Wednesdays, whatever you want to call it, but build a sequence. And so all mine is at the beginning of the year, I work with the VA I list him out the 52 posts I want to include. It's a really simple email. Again, at the top, I have a little introduction. On this one, I'm going to use more of hey, here's an article you may have missed. Here's why I think you should read it. Here's an interesting fact from it, maybe, and then a link to the article. And as you write more, as you put out more podcasts or more videos, you just keep adding to the sequence. And what I love about it, not only does it get people to go back and look at your old content, but it also makes sure that every subscriber is going to see all of those pieces of content. Because, if you're a podcaster and somebody subscribes tomorrow, they may not even go back and listen to last week's episode, but it may be something that they want. So you use a sequence like this to continue to surface all of that old content, and it really makes sure everybody sees your most important stuff.
I have a follow-up with that, Paul. So when you set that up, is that a yearly cadence, as in on January 1st, everyone gets added to that. And then if a new person gets added to your list, they jump down to the, June 26th email as their first one? Or is it somebody enters, they're going to get 52 emails in a row every week? And then what happens after that?
Great question. So every January we set it up and we build a 52-week email sequence. Now, secret behind the scenes, I haven't finished this year's sequence. My VA has them all ready for me, but I haven't gone through and turned them all on. But yes, it is a completed sequence at the beginning of the year. The way subscribers get into it is, since I did it last year, they don't get put into the 2025 one until they finish the 2024.
Got it.
If they are a new subscriber, they're put in email number 1 for 2025. So they're going to enter the sequence at the very beginning and then go all the way through the 52 weeks. So they won't be put into, so if somebody subscribed today, they're not going to start the 2026 52 weeks sequence until next June.
Got it.
Can you talk real quick about like what that kind of content is? Because so people can get an idea of like when we're talking about evergreen stuff that you're doing for the powwows, because that seems like a lot, 52. I mean, and what kind of like, this was a great tip from, not a question from, but mostly Disney says, I try to have AI give me a newsletter, but it just ends up writing my own short newsletters. Plus Jeff said to be funny and AI was not that funny. My problem is actually writing them. So like when we were talking about setting up a 52-week email and what to write about, like what's your content about inside that 52-week sequence?
I will pull one up.
See, he's forgotten. He doesn't even know. That's what's so funny.
No, well, it's a lot. 52 weeks, right? Let me see. Here's one. This is a good one. So let me see. All right. Can we see that?
No, just read it because I can't, because we got a podcast going on too. So sorry.
Okay. So it's, here's one. The title is How Well Do You Know the Largest Native American Tribes? And so it's an article we have written on the website. And so at the beginning it is, hey, have you ever wondered who the biggest tribes are? We have a list that goes into that detail. You probably don't know who some of these are. Here's a link to read more. And then it's just, I'm using the feature image from the article and the button to take you right to it. And that's it. That's the whole email. Really simple, one call to action. And so I do that for 52 pieces of content, just really highlighting. We have a lot of articles on a website.
So you're pointing back to articles.
Yeah.
So you're using
Yes.
it as like a funnel to point back to an article on your website. That's the whole goal for
Yes.
these things. Okay.
Right. So yeah, but if you're a podcaster, you can use all your past episodes and drive them back to that. Or whatever your content is. If you're a vlogger or whatever, it's just, go back and find all of your content and just resurface all of it.
We have
See,
go ahead.
We have a lot. That's right. Not all of it. Great. That's what. But what the thing that I love about this is two things. One, it's 52 pieces of content, so you can guarantee they're going to get something every single week. So if life happens and for whatever reason Paul wasn't able to write a newsletter for that week, he can rest assured knowing they're still going to get hit with something because of the Throwback Thursday series that's going. But the other thing that's good, and I'm pretty sure he does it this way, is if somebody doesn't want to get that email, you have them be able to click a link that opts them out just of that series, right? And then they still get all of your other newsletter content, even if they just don't want the Thursday one, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I just use tagging in Kit. And so if you want to not receive the Throwback Thursday, there's a link that removes the tag and then pulls you out of that sequence. Yeah, and you don't get those. But it really, people love the Throwback Thursdays. It's one of the best open rates we have because it's a really simple email. It's short, it's quick. And Friday morning, it's fun to go look at the stats and see we get a bump on Friday morning from all of the traffic that came in the day before. People love it.
That's cool.
That's
and
really cool.
like I didn't send out my Wednesday email because I had to write a theme song for Connor, and so it didn't go out. So that makes perfect sense of figuring out how to do that. So okay, that especially for podcasters and live video people, like this is something, because a lot of our stuff is evergreen. Like a lot of it it can be served up to other people, and so I'm gonna think about doing that. It's really cool, Paul. Um,
Like, let's go back to our friend Lou,
Right.
who has what, 600 episodes.
oh, gosh,
Um,
yeah.
he can't he probably can't do a 52-week sequence because there's just too many episodes. But could you use AI and put your episodes in there and say, maybe give me, a series on my best episodes for WW tips, or here, do 10 emails on my best cruise episodes. And so instead of doing every episode in your catalog, then you could create little themed pockets. So for maybe 5 weeks, they're going to get Disney World. For another 5 weeks, they're going to get cruise. So depending on how much content you have, you can still do some things here to resurface all that old content.
So we could actually have a email sequence of all our episodes about email. Like we could do that because we've had like 4 or 5, different ones. So I could set up, hey, opt into this. You want to learn more about email. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things you can do. And once again, email's so cool, just like podcasting is, it's subscription based. Like it's the only thing you really own. There's no algorithm. If they say yes, they get your emails. So that's really good. Really, it's got me thinking. So, all right.
I can see the hamster in Jeff's head just spinning
Yes, I
out
know.
of control.
It
But
is.
Paul, I think that 52 emails is daunting for somebody that's just starting out, right? You get your welcome sequence in perfect working order, right? You talked about how that's your foundational sequence. Everything eventually goes through the welcome sequence.
Right.
But what's the next sequence? What's the tier 2 sequence? It might not be 52 emails a year sequence, but what do you think some people should start to explore once they've got that welcome sequence really, really, really solid? What's the next kind of tier that they should go for?
I think that's where we find what is your best lead magnet. And I think so many people have spent time building these lead magnets where like they're PDF downloads or ebooks or whatever. I like to build lead magnets that are sequences. And because how many of us have downloaded a PDF because we thought it was really cool, but did we open it tomorrow? I mean, we looked at it. Do we ever go back and use it? Probably not. So if you can take that same content that's in a PDF and deliver it in 4 or 5 emails, that's kind of the second thing that I like to do is let's figure out. And so I use this example all the time. In powwows.com, I have what to expect at your first powwow. And I'm able to put that out in podcast on social media. And there's a lot of people who want to go to a powwow. And so that is a great lead magnet. It gets them into this, it's maybe a 10 email sequence, and that takes them through. Then they're put into the general welcome, and then they're kind of in the powwows.com ecosystem. And then you can find another one. Like I work with some recipe bloggers, and we just went through and like, let's build a lead magnet for all of your easy, quick 15-minute recipes. And let's build another sequence over here for all of your best chicken recipes. These are touch points that, like if somebody lands on your website and they're reading a chicken recipe, put a little lead magnet there, a little subscribe box that says, "Hey, do you want to see all of my chicken stuff? Click here," and then they come. That's your lead magnet, right? That's the way to get them into your list. And again, then they go through your 5 email chicken sequence, then they're put into your general welcome, and then they're in your system. So that's kind of the phase 2 is build your welcome first, and then let's figure out all of these other touch points and lead magnets to get people into it, and that's where we're really going to grow your list.
Yeah. So
Jeff's chicken sequence has a nice ring to it. I don't know what that entails.
the
But
chicken,
Jeff's
how to do the chicken dance at a wedding. That's what it would be.
nice.
And Connor's would be hair care tips. So how to grow a long, luscious mane. Rich says Paul's email stack tool video lead magnet. It's an awesome lead magnet. That's what got him. So it's another thing. Video, like using a video for a lead magnet.
Yes.
That you're training something like Paul's doing. Like very, very cool. Go ahead, Connor.
I have a follow-up to that, Paul. Do you put, when it's an email sequence as a lead magnet, do you say straight up, this is an email sequence? Like, is that the name of the lead magnet? Because I almost wonder are we too conditioned to be like, I'm looking for a PDF opt-in, I'm looking for a video opt-in, or are people cool with just saying, hey, sign up for this email sequence?
So like the what to expect at your powwow, I have several different opt-ins for it, but all of them say an email series or our free email course. So yeah, I'm using the word email. I'm using that, and in the first message, I let them know, it's like, hey, thanks for subscribing. Over the next 5 or 6 days, I'm going to send you some messages that will tell you all this information. So I'm letting them know that in that first email, hey, you are in an email sequence and you're going to get a few messages.
Awesome. By the way, something else that is awesome is our friends over at Ecamm. That's right, folks. You can find out more about Ecamm by going to ecamm.com/Jeff. Use code Jeff15 to save 15% on your first purchase. And by the way, Leap tickets, their Leap into Live, no, not Leap tickets, their camp, Creator Camp, is coming up, and they are close to selling out. So if you're wanting to get tickets, make sure you guys go over to Ecamm. I think they have a big banner. It's amazing. I'll be speaking there. Liz will be there. So many cool people are going to be there. It's so much fun. So make sure that you go.
Paul's going to be there.
Paul will be there as well. So yeah, hit him up for those email questions live at the event. So ecamm.com/Jeff. So as we go into this last section, which, man, this has flown by so quickly. This is a question I know you get a lot, Paul. But, a lot of people listening, they've got an email list that they haven't emailed in months. This was me, like, a couple years ago, maybe even years. Like, what is your step-by-step approach for reviving a ghost list without triggering a bunch of unsubscribes? So what is your ideas if you need to warm up your list again, if you haven't done it for a while and you've inspired us to really start hitting email hard?
Again, my theme is always being open and honest and talking to your audience like you're talking to them, at a restaurant or sitting with them. So if you have a list that you haven't been active with, that first email needs to be, hey, thanks for subscribing, and just be honest. I know I haven't sent an email in a few weeks or months, and I hope you're still interested. If not, you can click here to unsubscribe, or I'm going to be, and just tell them, hey, I'm going to prune the list soon. And so people who haven't opened the list, I'm going to go ahead and remove them. You just be honest with it. People appreciate that. And again, that's going to separate you from all these other messages and the AI stuff, is that you're being vulnerable. You're telling them what's going on. It's okay. People aren't looking for you to be perfect. Just be truthful with them.
That's a great point. And just being like, hey, I didn't send an email because this happened, or like, but I'm really, hold me accountable. And I bet you'll get a ton of replies, which is what you want to see anyway in that. So this is a great question from our pal Rich Watts. Says, can Paul share his approach on choosing lead magnets and giveaways? Is it more about solving a problem, filling a need the subscriber has, versus using something that serves your purpose?
Oh, great question, Rich. I think the first thing you should do is answer questions, or solve problems that your readers have. So I go back to the what to expect at your first powwow. I get so many questions about those, what do I wear? What can I bring? What are the rules? So I created that sequence. The number 2 question I get on powwows.com is, hey, I live in Alabama. Is there a powwow near me? So I have another sequence that's how to find a powwow near you. And we take them through that. So those are the ones that I'm just addressing common questions that I get. After you've kind of done that, and for some people, maybe you don't have enough kind of feedback to do that. So then just look at your content. And if you are, if you have a ton of content that you've written or a podcast about a particular topic, maybe that's your first email sequence you build. So again, going back to a recipe blogger, if you write a whole bunch of dessert recipes, then maybe desserts is your first kind of email series, and you just offer up, hey, here are my top 10 favorite dessert recipes. And you offer that as your lead magnet. And then once you do that and you get some feedback and people start asking like about a technique in your desserts, then maybe you fill that need and answer that question with another sequence.
Very good.
I also think that that's a great place to utilize AI, right? Especially when a lot of these lead magnet questions are an answer to a 101 question, right? Or an intro question. If we're the experts in our field and we're sharing our expertise, sometimes it's hard for us to go back and put ourselves in the shoes of someone starting out. So using AI and being like, what are some questions someone just starting out would have? And that might give you a great place to start creating an email series, creating a lead magnet, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
So real quick, Connor, on that note, I was just editing working on a podcast for Agora Pulse, where Brooke Sells is going to be as one of the guests, and I'm a little teaser here, but she talks about using AI in a way where you're gathering those questions and then creating content from that. And that's one of the things I think AI is really good, not just at putting out, like writing our stuff for us, but analyzing things, like taking and find out what are the best questions, what are the questions people are asking, and then what can I create from that? I even used it for this show. I actually uploaded our transcript where we talked about before, and I had our questions that we were going to do that we didn't get to, and I said, hey, figure out which ones we didn't ask and build on that. And it did it. It helped me pull these questions together based on stuff that we didn't have a chance to talk to. And that sped up the process. So combining things and using AI to help analyze stuff, I think, is where the real power of these new tools we have coming through. So sorry about my soapbox there, but
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea.
you had a question?
No,
Connor?
you can stand on a soapbox whenever you want. I know it helps you a lot.
It helped me. I
See
grew
over the
taller.
counter.
That's
right?
right.
And all
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
When you're doing a reactivation campaign, Paul, how are you measuring that success, right? Because again, it goes back to, especially when you want to either get them re-engaged or start a new list, kickstart an old list, right? We want the people to be on that list that are going to open our emails and stuff. It's not just going to be a one-off and then all of a sudden they're now re-engaged, but then they go on and don't open another email for a bunch of months. So how do you measure it? Is it opens? Is it replies? I know you love replies. Is it clicks? What's the deeper engagement metrics that you look at when it comes to reactivation campaigns?
Yeah, I think you need to be a little more patient when you are trying to reactivate a list and you have something that's been sitting dormant. So I don't think you need to be looking at open rates. You definitely don't need to be looking at click-through rates or anything like that. I think the more important thing is you have replies, and you kind of said that before. But also, it's when you start reactivating that list, I want to see unsubscribes, and I want to see that people are getting off the list that maybe don't want the content anymore. I'm okay with that, and that's good. But then I'm also going to look at the open rates of the third and fourth email I send to them, not one or two, right? Because again, you're warming something up. But if people have stuck around and they're still opening after 3 and 4 emails, that's the important metric, because then you know that you actually have people that want your messaging, and so that's what you need to look at. And you got to be patient with that. Your open rate on that first email you send is going to be terrible. So don't even measure success by that. Don't even look at it. Let's just, hey, if you get anybody to open that first email, then it's a win.
Yeah.
Great point. So this is a great final question from our friend Ralph. And he says, what do you think about buying email lists or to get your email list growing? The issue is that if you have a low engagement at the start, the leads aren't reaching many people. So what are your thoughts about buying email lists, Paul?
I'm not a fan, because you don't know how it was collected. You don't know how warm that list is or anything like that. I mean, maybe if they give it to you really cheap, maybe, but so I would do it with a couple of caveats. One, if I bought a list, I would probably not put it into my main kit account. I may even create a separate test kit account, because again, we don't want to hurt our deliverability, and send some messages to that list trying to get them into my main account. That would be one way to do it. I think a better use, if you're willing to put some money behind it, I think a better use is using Facebook lead ads. They're extremely inexpensive, and it's people opting. You get them opting directly into your email list by giving them. They give you their email and ask to be put into your newsletter. I'm getting leads or email subscribers for 10 and 12 cents a piece. So spend a couple of dollars a week on that. I think that's a better use of funds. And you can, build your lead magnets and put your sequences in that. I think that's a better way. I'm just really cautious about deliverability. And if you buy a 10,000 person email list, you send it out and you get a 10% deliverability, that's really going to hurt you. And it is, if you get flagged by Google or Yahoo, it is hard to recover from that. So I just be really careful of doing that.
And it's hard to recover from that for your domain. Not if you switch
from
to
the domain,
another
yes.
account. your domain. So if you're using the same at whatever domain, whether you're sending from one kit account or another kit account
Yes.
or another, marketing tool, that goes with you. It's like your credit score, right? You can't just
Yeah.
switch a bank and all of a sudden it starts over. No. So
Right.
that's why you have to be super, super, super careful about that.
Yeah.
So-
Great point. Yeah. Make sure you're sending it from something completely different.
On that note about the lead ads from Facebook, and Ralph had a question too. And the way to is that when you're going from your learn more about powwows? What is the actual thing they're getting when they sign up for when the lead ad comes up in front of them? What is that for?
The one I'm running right now is find a powwow near you, find a powwow in your state. I use a couple of different texts, find a powwow. I actually have one running that's delivered just to like California, Washington, Nevada area, and it's find powwows in California. So that I'm putting them in that segment or sequence that is going to show them powwows by state and kind of in your area, because again, that's one of the most common questions. So that's a really easy if they see I'm using video as the ad or some of the powwow images. And then it's just, hey, do you want to find a powwow near you, ready to go to your first powwow, or ready to go to find more in your local area? It's a really easy click. And once they click that, it asks them for their email address, which Facebook automatically fills out. They click a button, they're put into Kit, and then they get that email sequence.
Awesome. Yeah, I need to play with that a little bit more. So this is a great follow-up question. This is, I swear, is the last one, Paul. This is Rich Graham again, says, for an e-commerce business, what's your opinions on auto adding buyers to my marketing list? I know you sell products, and so if somebody buys a product who's not on your list, do you just automatically dump them into your main list? How do you handle that?
Yes, and you can put in your transaction, that hey, you are being subscribed as a customer, right? And I do. So here's where I break from using Kit all the time for my e-commerce platform. I am using Klaviyo for that because it as of right now, Kit's doing some things that are getting better, but as of right now, it does a better job of integrating with Shopify. And yes, it has built in and it has languages in there. Like if you buy,
Right.
you've now been added to this email newsletter.
Gotcha. And you need to make an easy way for them to opt out. You can't just
Right.
It's
Yes.
just kind of the Scan Spam Act and all that. All right. This has been, once again, amazing. Paul is the guy when it comes to email. If you ever have a chance to take one of his courses or hear him speak or any of that stuff, if you need consulting on your email list, there's a bunch of questions today that came through. If you want to have a one-on-one with Paul, he will do that for you. So paulgauder.com for you guys who are listening on the podcast. But Paul, what you got going on? What else, where can people find you at? The floor is yours.
Oh, thanks. Hey, if you are interested in going to your first powwow, or if you want to find a powwow near you, powwows.com/powwows101. I'll get you all that information. Everybody should go. It is a complete cultural immersion and it's open to the public. Two, if you're looking to figure out ways to engage your community, to grow your community and figure out a way to build that life you want through that side hustle or that business you're starting, I'd love to help you. Please come over to paulgauder.com and I have a couple of different ways you can interact with me or just send me an email, paul@powwows.com. I'd love to talk and see how we can get your business on that next level.
Awesome. This has been a great show. And by the way, it's the amazing Unsinkable Connor Brown. And we actually, if you guys came in late, we have a theme song from Connor now.
Unsinkable Connor Brown, they cry. He'll find the root no wave can deny. Through storms and squalls, he holds his ground. All hail the name of Connor Brown.
There you go. So where can people find the
Bow
amazing
down.
Unsinkable Connor Brown?
Bow down to me. That's my WWE entrance song. I've made that official. Here's one thing. I have a big ask for everyone. Go follow me on @Vacation Kingdoms and @Theme Park Happy Hour on Instagram. I've been inspired by the new book, Lean Learning by Pat Flynn.
Oh, yeah.
So for 60 days, I'm going to post one short form piece of content, video content a day on those platforms. I'm going to see what happens, but I'm committing to it for 60 days. So go follow me @Vacation Kingdoms, @Theme Park Happy Hour. Both of those are on Instagram, TikTok. You can find it, all that stuff.
So our friend Rich Watch says, that is fantastic. So I'm thinking he's talking about the theme song. So yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Dustin at Magi, which is a great tool. Everybody should check that out. Rich for all the great questions. Ralph for your questions as well. Everybody who popped in, but mostly Disney. All you guys, we wouldn't be able to do the show without you. And of course, our amazing sponsors over at Ecamm. Find out more about them at ecamm.com/Jeff. And with that, we'll see you guys. We won't be here. Well, we may. I may have a recording for you to watch about Midjourney, but we will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you later. Bye, everybody.